So go to that. Now, I started by saying, why do we need print? And I'd say that the surefire, um, what's the word? This is something that everybody will agree with that print provides, which is provides a knowledge industry, or it provides information management. The libraries don't handle books very much now, but they do handle information and the curation of information and all sorts of stuff like that. And we were talking before we started recording about how the Stanford Archive, and that's one of the standard features of a library, is it has an archive. The Stanford Archive might have this recording of the first meeting of the Tech Users Group. So tech provided me in the 1980s with a route into my own route to produce material that could go into the mathematics knowledge system without having to use a technical typist and an IBM golf ball typewriter and all sorts of other stuff. And it's that route that HTML provides and other pieces of technology provide, and things like R Markdown provides a route into the knowledge management industry and the knowledge dissemination industry. And that's really what the News of the World, with its 8 million copies, and the Proceedings of the Royal Society, with its 15,000 copies or whatever they were, and Isaac Newton's Principia Mathematica, which I believe stayed in press for a very long time because it was not a big seller of the Cambridge University Press. And I don't know how many copies they printed, but I don't suppose there's more than about 5,000. But that was a big enough audience to make a book worth writing. And if we look at it from the generation of knowledge, the journals provide a place for people to publish, and that provides a motivation for people to do these things. So I'm concerned that the tech community, like, for example, the automobile industry in the first part of this century, were perfecting a technology that is becoming less popular and obsolete. The automobile industry perfecting the internal combustion engine. In some sense, I'm very pleased that they've been able to reduce the fuel consumption and the pollution it produces. That's really important. But in many contexts, the electrical engineering for automobiles is more important. So looking forward to the next 50 years, what are the sort of problems that the modern Knuth has to solve? And when I say Knuth, I don't mean one person, I mean a group of people. And Knuth didn't solve his problems by himself, he brought in a group of people. And underneath I wrote down Wikipedia. Wikipedia is a knowledge device. It's a publishing device, and it's had to solve a lot of problems. So Wikipedia is a sort of half Knuthian problem to a half Knuthian solution. There's an element of a Knuthian problem and an element of a Knuthian solution. There's some sort of thing that you can do with computers now that you couldn't do before, which is collective editing, group work, crowdsourcing, that sort of thing. Wikipedia allowed that to take place, and it's a social thing as much as a technical thing, and it provided a sort of solution. And then underneath, I wrote Facebook, Google, and Amazon Web Services. They've all solved problems, modern problems, relating to, for example, mobile phones. And say what you like about Facebook, but you made the trains run on time. No, say what you like about Facebook, but it's actually quite easy to set up your own website on Facebook. And you can set up a website from which you can run a business or a political campaign or all sorts of stuff. WordPress makes it quite easy to set up a website. Then there's Google, which does many things, and the Google Mail suite is quite good in many ways. And Amazon Web Services means that you can scale up without having to have a room full of computers. You can borrow computers. I was explaining to a friend, it's a bit like hiring a car, except you can hire a computer for 10 minutes. Amazon allows you to hire a computer or 100 computers without booking ahead of time for half an hour if you need a half an hour, or 5 minutes, or even 10 seconds. Amazon, the Lambda, the serverless thing, allows you to hire a computer for 5 seconds. You could typeset a document in 5 seconds. You could probably typeset the tech book in a minute or less than a minute. So that makes providing web services really cheap and easy in some sense. Of course, Amazon, being Amazon, it doesn't care whose goods it sells. That's a late arrival to it. But it doesn't matter whether it sells your version of this or their version of this or whatever, as long as they get 5%. I didn't understand at first why Amazon would sell things that were supplied by other people, but they're getting a commission. There was somebody called Gulbenkian who became fantastically rich, and I think he was known as Mr. 5% because he would make deals that benefited both parties, and he'd get a 5% commission. So there was a third party that benefited as well. So I'm thinking, what are the problems that a modern Knuth has to solve? And some of the problems are accessibility of mathematics. Some of it is, well, I need HTML and I need print as well, because I've got these diverse groups and I've got these diverse needs and I've got regular requirements. Some of them are, I want things that happen in print, but I want them to happen on HTML. One of them has already been solved. So HTML5 gives identical results on all web browsers. That happens in print, and then that happens in web browsers because of HTML5. And so a way of looking at this is, who are the people that created HTML5? What problems are they trying to solve? What social problems are they trying to solve? Not just technical problems. What are the social problems? The social problems that the steam locomotive was trying to solve was the movement of goods and the movements of people. So what are the social problems that the people behind HTML5 are trying to solve? And can't we make common cause with them? I'm going to stop now so Arthur can say goodbye properly.
Thank you so much for inviting me to this delightful and stimulating conversation. I'm really looking forward to hearing the rest of what you have to say, Jonathan.
Jonathan, the film you mentioned, was it The Devil's Workshop? Hello? I can't hear you.
Sorry, I just said that I was muted.
Oh. Was the film The Devil's Workshop?
It was.
Yes, okay. I shall try to find that.
Actually, that's another example. I saw that at the Open University Film Society. Actually, it's called the Open Film Society. When Milton Keynes started in 1970 or so, they didn't have a cinema, but the Open University existed and it had a lecture theatre and it had a film society. And it was the only cinema in Milton Keynes. And the annual membership sold out on the first day. And they used 35mm films. And about 7 years ago, they sort of had a bit of a crisis because 35mm films stopped being the way things were being distributed. And they started getting films on DVD, which is fairly similar to the standard DVDs you get. Actually, the quality I don't think was as good. The visual quality wasn't as good. You didn't get the same sense. The film societies have stopped functioning during the whole pandemic, and I don't know what will happen afterwards. There's something about a shared experience that film can provide, and the physically shared experience is also quite important. But the films are a mechanical technology, and they're electromagnetic only in the sense that they're photographic. So films are made through photographs, they're moving pictures. And television, which came to life really in the 1950s, was some sort of threat to the cinemas. In Britain, the high point of cinema audience was, I think, the 1950s. And now you don't get the mass cinema audiences, even before the pandemic, and you don't get the big theatres. You have lots of little theatres. One of the big revolutions that I think we need to take account of is the rise of the flat screen television, because I have a 40-inch television and I watch it from 10 feet away when I'm watching something I'm streaming. And it's more than adequate in terms of television. It's the best television I've ever watched. And some people have 55, 60-inch televisions, which obviously cost more. But it's a tremendously powerful device. And I've discovered that I can read a PDF very nicely by making it full screen. So it goes from the top of the screen to the bottom of the screen. And it's really quite easy to read. The print is very big. And the only thing I regret is that I don't have anything to put in the other side, on the blank space at the sides. I like to sort of be able to put notes in or have other information. But as an information device, we have this structured information and we render it to print using text so that we can read it more easily. Well, it's the typesetting that provides all the visual stuff that makes it easier to read. The nice fonts, the use of space, the use of color, the use of pictures, all those things make it a pleasure to read, or at least not a distraction. You know, you don't want to be admiring the typography when you're reading when you should be paying attention. You know, it's like wearing very flash clothes when you're giving a talk. You don't want people to be looking at your clothes, and you want them to be listening to what you say. So I'm finding that is really reducing my need to print. Sorry, I'm going to stop again because I don't know where we are. And I know what I did. I was talking about cinema because that was one of the big things that's changed, actually. Cinema's changed very much, and television has changed very much with the advent of streaming. So we stream our content now, a lot of it.